Recording?
I am once again
recording.
recording.
Okay.
He's sitting in a chair.
Let's sync up. Ready, set, one, two, three.
See, I was sure I was going to get it this time, and Dan decided to be the...
Great.
Two is. I realize now it was the joke that two is always good, and Justin just uses it arbitrarily. I forgot that was the meme.
Well, no, yeah, like it became a joke that two was always good, but it's a little more difficult to perfectly sync one than there's exactly one instance.
It's also like we're not really synced at all. We're just trying to say things.
I know. At this point, I'm just fudging it.
Anyway, all right, let's get going. Welcome to Corrective Consciousness episode 300, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture, but not really much anymore. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is our final episode, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
PyroJackFrost, back again for the last time.
And OldManStompy, back for the first time since, according to my Skype log, August of 2019. Which is quite a while, and thankfully, absolutely nothing of interest happened anywhere in the world since then. So,
I mean, if you take out the pandemic, then it's only been like a few episodes we missed.
That is true.
I had that comment a while ago that it can't possibly be April Fool's because it's still March 2020.
Yeah.
But we are here for a final special episode here with all of our prominent collaborators. So I really was very happy that we got a chance to have Dracologist and Pacaphon on for their own final correctives and reactives. But we have our main hosts all were able to make it and make this something special. So really love that. I guess the best thing to do is just kind of have a retrospective. I mean, when I actually started this Corrective Consciousness a week, I had kind of an episode 0 with a friend of mine from college, and
well, you had an episode 0 with me. You had an episode -1.
I had an episode -1 with him, and he came on for Dunellen. Yeah, Dunellen. He came on and did an episode or 2 with us as well. But we did an episode -1, and I filmed that back at the dorm. So or recorded that back at the dorm. So it was just it's kind of funny because that was before SoundCloud or anything easy to upload. Part of the reason why we didn't commit to it was that it was so hard to put it out then.
I could have sworn I saw you handing out CDs at Rutgers.
It's true. No,
you can find it on the Optimus Prime download server.
Oh, jeez.
Direct
it was
Connect,
on
right?
DC++.
Oh, yeah.
It was on DC++. We actually had a file sharing service that everybody used because it could get around the bandwidth restrictions at the time.
Yeah, so. And not only could it get around the restrictions, but the upload-download rate was pretty incredible.
I mean, that's because it was because it was a largely unsanctioned file sharing server that people just happened to run on the university network. That would periodically get trashed by campus security, and then just pop up somewhere else.
I was just gonna say it was probably. I think it was basically running off of a computer in a closet somewhere. It's just one of those things. Or maybe
every time there'd be a sting. The first time there was a really big sting was when I was a student, which is 3 or 4 years before you guys. And so the people sold shirts. The first server was called Optimus Prime. So people would sell shirts with the Autobots logo and never forget the date that this thing happened, and had nothing to do with the Transformers movie or 9/11 whatsoever. If you weren't really plugged into Rutgers campus culture, you had no idea what it was about.
Well, this was also at the birth of social media and stuff like that. This was even before Facebook had just become a thing.
When we were freshmen, that was Facebook's first year, and that was the perfect time because at the time you had to have a college email address to join Facebook.
It was called the Facebook.
So like my brother couldn't join the site because he was too young. He didn't have a college address. My parents couldn't join the site because they were too old. Email didn't exist when they went to college.
It was kind of cool because it was tight-knit at the time. So basically you could only talk to people at your campus, so it wasn't really creepy. I'm sure there were creepy aspects to it. There always are.
I was going to say literally like the conceit of Facebook was creepy.
but what I mean is like a lot of people were pretty open to like meeting people through it, like in real life. Yeah. And even our file sharing thing was like that. The chat in there like actually like brought people together.
You know what's actually insane, by the way? This isn't Facebook specific, but rather university website specific. Is like I was once able to return somebody's lost student ID to them because I looked up their name and like their phone number showed up. Can you imagine that shit today? You could just look up someone on your university's phone number just by like going to the website directory. Like I think you might be able to do names because like students are at the university, but like I could just get their phone number. You don't know me.
But yeah,
and this is when I was a student, by the way. Like as a teacher, it's still creepy, arguably creepier. But like as a student, it's weird.
So I kind of bounced around and did various podcasts. I went to Hardcore Gaming 101's original incarnation of their podcast, and we did a pretty fun one there, but it wasn't very consistent. So like we just kind of did episodes when we could. So that's kind of a death knell to a podcast is being inconsistent. And then I tried getting going quite a few times. Like it took me a while for me to finally sync up with Lotus and get there. Like we had talked about doing one for a long time, and it was always me who didn't jump on it. And Lotus and I had done a few Let's Plays up until that point. We had done Snatcher, I think, already, right? And
I don't know if Police Knots was before or during, but we did Police Knots as well. You, me, and PyroJackFrost did like Golden Axe 1, 2, and 3.
We did Barkley. That was another one of the early ones.
Barkley was amazing.
Did Harvester
and we didn't do.
Yeah, well, the OldManStompy. You and I did
that
Harvester.
One.
That was. I think wasn't that our first one we did?
Yes, that was back when I was still actively recording YouTube videos. Personally, I did basically 4 Let's Plays on YouTube. That was the third one.
Yeah,
Nice.
I remember. I know you did that, like a Final Fantasy mobile game. Like I was kind of in and out with that one, but your Alundra and Ghost Trick stuff were like so comprehensive. What was the? Oh yeah,
Dual Hearts.
Dual Hearts. Yeah,
Dual Hearts is like one of my favorite Let's Plays I've ever seen because
all 3 of those are great.
Well, that one in particular is like that's a game that not too many people love. But it's also very
heard of.
It's also very interesting because it is a descendant of Alundra and its other compile brethren. So it was just really interesting to hear like you also talk about the connections with Alundra and what's the Genesis game? The Legend of King Noel.
Landstalker.
Landstalker, that's right. And then that series has so many weird spiritual successors. Like there's a lot of them.
Well, it makes me think of like Quintet. There's like ActRaiser, Soul Blazer, Illusion of Gaia, Terra Enigma. Like all of them are like they're not the same game, but they kind of are. You're a guy from the sky who comes down to Earth to fix things. So there's like a somewhat sim, and then there's action stuff in like all of these games and Grand Stream Saga, I think.
Yeah, and there was Dark Savior is part of that.
Dark Savior is
like
the Landstalker side, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Time Stalker, the Steel Princess is like also part of that.
Wasn't there like Lady Stalker? It's like
Lady Stalker is the SNES one that never made it to the US.
Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of I think that's the direct sequel to Landstalker. But yeah, It's such a weird game to have like a billion sequels that are secret sequels. Like,
Yeah.
like Alundra's one of them. And Alundra's
Well,
probably
I mean,
the
it
most
also makes me think of the
prominent.
Souls games. Like, I know that there actually is a Dark Souls 2 and 3, but like Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, it's like,
They're all thematically connected, and
Yeah.
and just if you play them, they play like each other. So
yeah, mostly, yeah.
yeah. I mean, Sekiro is probably the biggest deviation, but
Yes, Sekiro's a Tenchu game.
yeah, but they're mostly like the UI is like a dead giveaway of what you're playing.
Oh yeah,
you know?
oh yeah.
Because it's all the same, the way you equip things. I have to say, Elden Ring, though, like, is by far the easiest to play. Like, you could jump in that game, and, like...
Yeah, there's a
like,
dedicated jump button. It was weird in Sekiro, but, like, you'd think I'd be used to it now, because Sekiro had it, but, like, everything looks Souls. I'm in Western Knight's armor, and I can just jump.
Yeah, you don't have to do, like, weird workarounds and...
Yeah, like double tap the run button. What?
Yeah, and it's not awkward. Like, you can platform like you would in any other action game.
Yeah,
like,
you press the jump button and your character jumps.
and they jump like you would hope they would, which is not
like
something
a
I'm used to.
decent height. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not like a forward only, like probably not gonna work jump.
Yeah, exactly. Or like one of those cinematic platformer jumps that like has like an awkward lead up and like
yeah. And if you're riding your horse, by the way, have you gotten the horse?
Yeah. That
you can
horse
double
is
jump.
Super nimble.
Yeah,
and you can double,
when I unlocked a double jump, not unlocked. I don't know what happened. I pressed jump twice with the horse, and I'm like, wait, when could I do this?
Just jump again. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's really awesome.
Oh, you know what was funny? When I streamed the game for the first time, I was above an enemy and I fell on him and was trying to do like a plunging attack. So I pressed like the attack button while I was falling, and it didn't work. I just slashed the air. I'm like, did they lose a plunging attack? Can anybody tell me how to do a plunging attack? And it was so embarrassing because I forgot that I can just jump. So it's just jump and heavy attack, and it's just every time you do that, it's basically a plunging
It feels
attack.
dirty,
Like,
almost like you shouldn't be able to do it.
I feel like that's
it's wild to me that like Dark Souls has adapted to have like more fluid horse riding controls than the most recent Zelda game.
Yeah, it's true.
Which is like all people know about Zelda these days is that he rides a horse. If you aren't really into the series,
and no more weapon durability. No Zelda limited carrots for Epona.
oh yeah, well Zelda added in weapon durability. They're getting more Souls-like, while Souls-like is getting substantially better. I had a very eye-opening moment.
Breath of the Wild is the Dark Souls.
where a YouTuber I follow was like people call the Souls games difficult when they're really just like average, but they have really bad checkpointing, and that's why he never really got into it. And I kind of get it, you know, like I understand why they design them the way they do, but this for accessibility, not really a good reason. Like it's not necessary for them to make you do the walk of shame every time you die.
Well, that's the thing. Like Elden Ring, I believe, has pretty good checkpoints for major bosses, but like Souls got better, but Demon Souls was rough. Like for King Alant,
Yeah,
that really sucked. You had to run past a bunch of goons and then ride an elevator that was like literally 45 to 60 seconds. Just riding an elevator. Like it was awful.
well, Souls kind of plays off of that like that huge serotonin release that you get when you finally accomplish something.
Oh, of course.
So like that's part of the experience, and what makes it satisfying to play is just I finally did that thing that I've been trying to do.
Well, yeah, but that's satisfying when you respawn and fight him again, not when you respawn.
Yeah,
and
like Monster Hunter's like that too. They don't make you like walk for 30 minutes to get back to every fight. You can just go right back to the mission.
Enough.
It's still
Fair
so
enough.
like there's
like,
a high. It matters that there's a high cost to respawning in the Souls-like game, because you know if it's easy, you tend to take it kind of off the cuff, but at the same time you get to try like more strategies because the opportunity cost of dying is lower. You know, if you respawn right at the boss gate. So I kind of wish they'd done that. I mean,
especially
it was
with Sekiro.
my Minty Mitz, my wife. She played the first Dark Souls, and watching her like evolve into a crazed survivalist over the course of the first like 2 checkpoints in the first, because like
that game does it.
The game really does that to you. She had like, after she died to like the first big enemy a couple of times, she pulls out when your options are very limited, you have to pull out everything the game offers to you. The bow and arrow, the torches, or like the fire bombs, because they're all really helpful in helping you avoid difficult, risky combat.
It's funny, like, reading the Elden Ring subreddit when everyone's so nice to each other, I would say, because there's so many people who gatekeep Souls-like games.
Yes.
And it's like, if you're using summons, if you're using magic, then you're playing it on easy mode. It's like, it's in the game, right? There is no technically easy
They're
mode.
meant to be used. I actually saw a post just today that was, like, parodying that. Like, if you use the ashes for summoning, you're not really playing Elden Ring. If you're using a weapon, you're not really playing Elden Ring. It's like, what? Wait, what?
I mean, like, let's be honest. Margie, the first boss. If you use your summons,
that guy's
like,
rough.
he's still fairly difficult. They certainly don't
Yes.
easy mode the boss for you. You can still get
killed
poked
my
off the
wolves
edge of the
pretty
bridge,
quickly.
like you can with every early Dark Souls boss.
Yeah, when I was streaming the game, like, I didn't really do a really dedicated attempt to beat him because I wanted to, like, get to it for the Let's Play, so I tried him, like, twice. But, like, even so, there are a lot of little mini dungeons in Elden Ring with their own little bosses, which difficulty varies, but they're manageable. But I gotta say, for the first, like, real boss, Margit is hard. Like, the first real boss of Souls games, like, with Demon Souls, you're supposed to lose to Vanguard. So the first real one is Phalanx, which isn't even a boss itself. It just has a bunch of goons.
And that
It's
one's
literally
pretty
helpless by
easy.
itself.
I didn't even die from Phalanx.
Yeah, and with Dark Souls, it was the Asylum Demon, which is basically the Vanguard, except you have to fight him, except if you run past him and get the sword, he becomes way easier, and you get a plunging attack that's like a third of his health. In Dark Souls 2, you have options of which boss to get to first, but by the time you do, it's been long enough that you've become mostly accustomed to fighting, so they're kind of tough, but, like, you should be prepared by that point. Dark Souls 3, the tutorial boss, was, like, if that's your first Souls game ever, that guy's rough. He even has 2 phases. But Margit, like, I've beaten all these games, and I've beaten Sekiro. Like, Margit is rough for an early boss.
Yeah.
He's really hard.
I'm really actually like compelled to play Elden Ring though. Like it's I feel like it's just so much less nerve-wracking than the earlier ones.
I think
Have you
the
met any of
open
the
world.
randomly wandering bosses?
What were you saying, Pyro?
I think the open world really helps because,
Yes.
the only one I beat was Bloodborne, but in those games, typically you have 2 choices. You have a boss you're going to die to, or you have another dungeon you can explore.
Yeah.
When you finish exploring that dungeon, you could probably beat the boss you're stuck on, because then you're going to be stuck on the boss of that dungeon you were in, and it's like a back and forth. But there's always going to be that chance when you get to the end, 2 bosses, and you have to beat one of them, and you're like, I can't beat these. I just need to bash my head against the wall until I do it. Whereas in Elden Ring, like, there's so many options. Like, I died to Margit once, I think. Maybe I tried a few times. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I think this was before I even tried using my ashes too. And then I was like looking online. I realized there was a whole other area that I didn't even explore. I didn't even realize it was there because to get there you had to run across a bridge that had tons of enemies, and I thought that it was just like off limits. Then I just ran through it with my horse, and I'm like, wow, I have so much to do now. And then when I got back to Market after exploring that, I had my wolves, and like he was still hard, but like it was so much easier. Also, I find it interesting that I feel like the first like major boss, I guess you could say the first like, I don't know what you'd call the boss of the Stormwind Castle, like in terms of how he fits into the like tiering of bosses, but I felt like he was so much easier than Margit too.
Well, that is the thing. Like, sometimes, like, because Margit might be, I mean, it seems too much to even say this, but he might be like a skill check. Because Father Gascoigne, he's the first mandatory Bloodborne boss. but he's a skill check. Like, you've played a whole level to get to him, including with mobs, and then this guy's like a wake-up call. Oh, by the way, other guys have guns. Oh, by the way, this guy can use a transforming weapon like you can. Oh, also, that stuff you've been hiding behind. He could just bust it down in his third phase, get in there, and fight him. Like, so Gascoigne's like a lesson as well as a first boss. I guess Margit's lesson is like, remember those ashes you picked up and never thought to use? Like, this is when you do it.
I saw there's a lot more lessons.
He's like literally showing you how to play your character if you're really bad at the game.
Yeah.
I was watching a video and Margit has a lot of like lessons he's trying to teach, but it's obviously you're not going to realize it because like one of them is that you should never assume a boss is done with their combo. Two is like, I think one of the other lessons he tries to teach you is like learn which way that you're supposed to dodge different attacks. Like a lot of people are used to dodging backwards, and you shouldn't dodge backwards on most of his because he has long reach.
Yeah, backwards is one of the worst ways to dodge in most Souls games, unless you just take off the camera and you just run backwards. Because if you do a quick jump backwards, you're still going to get caught. Like, this is one of those things that's really hard to learn because it's so counterintuitive, but you should roll directly into his swing, like into his weapon arm, because your invincibility frames will carry you through it, which defies physics, which is why no one thinks to try it at first. But if you're a dodger instead of a tanker, like, that's what you do. Like, roll directly into him.
And I feel like there's no railings is a lesson too. Like, you gotta watch your surroundings.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that one of the compelling things about Elden Ring is that it's so much just like the nimble nature of your character just makes it such a less painful experience. It's just one of those things that like it feels very liberating after so many attempts with these games. Like, it's like, oh, they finally made this game control like you thought it could.
I will say this though, try Sekiro. You've never felt so nimble.
Wow.
Like, you are everywhere. But by the way, speaking of nimbleness regarding Elden Ring specifically, here's a lesson I learned. Most character classes probably don't have this problem, but mine did. I chose the Vagabonds because I went for a strength build, and as soon as I started the game, I was fat rolling. And I'm like, are you kidding me? But it turned out that it's because I have like a heavy halberd equipped in addition to my sword. And when I unequip the halberd, I could light roll. So, like, that's a thing you might need to consider doing. Like, equip load just immediately.
Yeah. I also wanted to piggyback off of what everybody was saying here about the lessons learned. One of the big things that people praise, like, early video games for, like NES and Super NES games, is that they typically try to teach you lessons. The best ones teach you lessons diegetically, like very very naturally. Like the original Super Mario Brothers and Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers 3 are very famous for, hey, there is a block. Like it's showing you immediately what you can do and how you kill a bad guy. Like, you can hit a block. The blocks have stuff in them, and you want to collect that stuff, and it gives you powers. Also, you can defeat this first bad guy by jumping on top of him. And if you didn't learn that, you just died. Maybe you should try something else.
My favorite is the mushroom. Like, they intentionally made it so that it rebounds back into your character because they thought that some people would like not try to pick it up. They think it was an enemy or a trick or something.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like a really cool thing that they thought of, especially considering that scrolling platformers were not really a thing. There were only 2 games before this that people point to, and it's Pac-Land and Ghosts and Goblins. And that's basically it. So this is at the infancy of the genre. So they really thought really hard about the game design there, about teaching you a lesson. And Mario 3 builds on that and also gives you a new power-up that you could try, the raccoon's tail, that And that first level is really good at teaching you how to use the raccoon tail. You would never know how to use it otherwise, and what its abilities are. Mega Man X is really good about that. Ego Raptor had
I was going to mention that. Yeah.
A video that talks about that and why excessive tutorials in games are poor, because they should just be teaching you naturally.
Especially when it's those, like, even some video games have made fun of this themselves, when it's like, press the stick to move. It's come on.
Yeah, I mean, generally you can assume that most people that are playing will have some experience in playing in the language of video games, right?
Oh, so you know what one of my favorite things is, by the way? I think this is less of a tutorial and more of like a realization in the plot. But do you remember that game that like faded from existence as soon as it was released? Do you remember Mind Jack for the PS3?
Oh yeah, it's called Mind Jacking.
It's called Mind. I think they establish, like in the story, that you can mind jack, like 4 or 5 hours into the game. But like gameplay wise, you've been doing it the entire time. It's like, what?
So funny. But I think that the Souls-like games, the From games, are good about that in an era where that wasn't a thing. And so a lot of the people that criticize these games aren't taking that into consideration, that the game is teaching you hard lessons a hard way, but it is doing that.
Although I will say, though, regarding controls, I don't remember if it was all of them, but I think it might be. I don't remember Dark Souls 3 so much, but they do have explicit messages that are like, this is how you control the game.
Yeah. But, I mean, the important lessons that you learn are...
Yeah, like how you should fight things, like item placement in front of thing where you probably need to use that item.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know how to backstab until you told me how to do it, which...
Yeah, that is ridiculously useful.
Yeah, well, you were like, I can't believe you gotten this far without backstabbing.
Yeah, you didn't have a problem with the ghosts, the thing that everyone has a problem with, but you did have a problem with the same shit you've been doing for the past, 15 hours.
Well, it's because, the human enemies, which is what people consider to be, the easiest type of enemy, because you can actually, understand their movement, and they don't have that many more abilities than you, so they're kind of easy to predict, but or easier to predict, but yeah, I just was having trouble with human type enemies more than I should have, and then all the weird stuff I kind of was blazing through.
Yeah. Weird really stuff funny. Doesn't have shields. This will be easy.
Exactly. But I'm glad that we kind of delved into having a normal discussion, because this is a good way to send off the podcast. Is be talk about something that we all have experience with and have common ground on. So that's really great, and it's also a pretty popular topic amongst the gaming community right now is Elden Ring. So and for good reason. It's the biggest game of the year, and it actually deserves it. It's not like Cyberpunk, where it was a gigantic flop. So
apparently it's come back, but that launch was almost literally unbelievable.
I just got an RTX card, so I started kind of replaying Cyberpunk. It's not bad. But again, I'm playing it now when all these patches came out.
Yeah.
But it's not interesting. But in a way, though, this is a hot take. I kind of feel the same way with The Witcher. The Witcher had a lot going for it just because it's a unique game, right? In a sea of sameness, in a way.
You've never liked The Witcher.
But I've never liked The Witcher games anyway.
Yeah.
I love the cyberpunk themes, and it's not a bad game. It's just, I don't know. They bit off more than they could chew. They're trying to work it out, and I think I think it comes down to it's a fine game, but it's not amazing that people expected coming from the company that made The Witcher.
Yeah.
I think one of its problems is that it doesn't seem to have a whole lot of charm. And that's kind of one of the things that makes The Witcher like great, is like a lot of the characters are beloved. And a lot of the sub stories are well told, so they have emotional resonance.
Well, remember that story I told you about for The Witcher 2, where you had to collect harpy feathers?
No, I forgot about that.
Oh, that's the greatest sub story ever. Because there's this one guy who insists that you bring him, I forgot, like a couple of harpy feathers, and when you do, he's like, good. But the guy that asked me to get the harpy feathers, he now requires more. Could you get 5? And then you do. And then you come back, sorry, my guy, like, needs still more. Could you get, like, a kind of obnoxious amount? And when you finally do, like, he's like, oh, thanks, buddy, here's your payment. Okay, bye, thank you for a job well done. And if you, like, wait a day, and then you come back, like, in game time, then you go into his house to check up on him, and he just has, like, the feathers all over his clothes, and he has, like, a stupid, like, poorly made, rudimentary, like, homemade, like, beak, like a cone, orange cone, like, that goes over his nose, and he's just, like, this shitty dressing up as a bird, and he just, like, freezes and stares at you, and you freeze and stare at him, and if you choose to talk to him, it's, like, it's great, because I think the phrase I used when we were recording is that both of you are desperately trying to avoid the elephant in the room, so you're like very slow and deliberate, and you're like, so nice weather we're having. Like, yes, it certainly is nice weather that we are having. And at some point, like, you ask him about the harpy feathers, like, so this collector friend of yours, is he gonna need any more harpy feathers? And he's like, oh no, that will not be necessary. And you're like, oh, okay, interesting. And like, when you when you leave, you know, when you kill certain monsters, you get like a trophy that just like you get like a claw from a cockatrice or whatever, or like a head from a goblin or something, and it just dangles from your belt. You get like the cone nose thing as a trophy, and if you have it on you, then you just equip it, and you have like a stupid
cone nose
made bird beak cone nose. It is a riot. Like, I uploaded that little bit on my YouTube channel, and I think someone had posted, like, I heard about this on the podcast and I checked it out, and like, oh my god, I was not expecting this. It is very funny.
That's awesome. I love that. I love like bits of humor, like really stupid silly shit in a very like somber games. I love that.
Also, Geralt himself, as the series progresses, develops like a level of sass that's just enough to not have authorities come down on him. Like, I think the Queen had complained about his job. He's like, you haven't found like the target yet? Like, my dogs could have found it by now. And Geralt is like, well, then perhaps Her Majesty should have sent dogs instead of a witcher. It's like, oh shit, it's amazing.
I love stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, Cyberpunk was one of those things where I think they just had such a hard time making the game into a game.
They bit off more than they could chew.
Yeah, that they didn't have an opportunity to impart the kind of writing that they are known for, and that's the important thing.
Yeah. And like one of the big issues that I heard, because I'm not that far in the game, that I heard it has is it's very much like has the open world game problem where
not enough to do.
Well, not that. It's just like the world's too big. Well, yeah, I guess partially that, but that if you break the world down into the regions, every region has like the same stuff. So like,
okay,
like there's always a person who's going to contact you when you get a new region, saying, "Hey, I'm your contact for this region. Here's some quests for you," kind of thing.
You've played all the content if you've done one region, right?
So
like,
there was a time
played everything.
I remember reading about the original design of the first Assassin's Creed game, where they dumped like the flags or feathers or whatever all over the map because they were like, no one will ever get all of these. It's just there for you to pick up. And it turns out like that's exactly why some people play like open world games, because they really
they accidentally
need a reason to go into like every corner of the world, and they expect something to always be there. And now that is just how like all these games are designed. They're just like a world where a pinata opened up over it, just like crap fell out everywhere.
And people have been
roughly evenly distributed.
Well, I was going to say, people have been posting pictures of this in comparison to Elden Ring's UI. If you go to one of these, like, Ubisoft games and you look up, like, where this collectible is, where this collectible is, where this type of collectible, and you have all the icons open up on your map, like, you can't even see the map for the icons.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane.
Yeah, especially in Far Cry. Far Cry, like, is very guilty of that. From Far Cry 3 on. Like, 4 was ridiculous. Like, that was the first time where I was just like, all right, I'm not doing all that. Like, there are certain ones where I was compelled because
Which ironically was probably developer intended. You're not doing all that.
Well, also, the first game that I really was like, I'm not doing all that was, I think it was Arkham City. There was just...
I actually did that shit.
Yeah, there was just way too many, and then Arkham Knight is even worse.
I actually did Arkham Knight, I'm sorry.
I know, but, like the ones in Arkham Asylum, the first one, were perfect. Yes. It was great, and it also had a really great payoff. And it was a really good diversion to figure out the Riddler stuff in each area. Yeah. But then they, with a bigger open world, with the second one, they just put them all over the fucking place.
You know what I will say, though? Like, the one that, like, the first one, I think, that I remember immediately saying I'm not doing this, L.A. Noire. Do you remember how L.A. Noire handled it?
So there were famous locations, right? Like landmarks.
There were that's not so bad, but there were little collectibles you could get, like film reels. Here's the thing: L.A. Noire mapped Los Angeles,
like
which is an impressive
Hollywood land.
Yeah, it's an impressive feat.
Los Angeles, yeah.
But like the murders that are in the game took place in like real locations, like they're historically accurate, and they're only in a small portion of the map. So there are giant swaths of map that, like, in the story you will never go to because they're just irrelevant, and there are collectibles scattered all around those areas. But here's the thing: they're not generally located in the story area. So, like, it's like, oh, there's 100 or 50 or whatever of these collectibles. I didn't even know they existed, like, when I beat the game. And you want me to explore solely, like, irrelevant, there's nothing to actually do here, parts of the map to find a MacGuffin that doesn't do anything? I was like, nope.
So the most unsatisfying collectible experience I've had is a game that I am nowhere close to completing, and that is Saints Row 3. And the reason why, I should be having fun with that game, and that's just part of the reason, because Dracologists always used to tell me I got to play that game, because one of the area bosses is a professional wrestler, and he thinks that I will really enjoy his scenario. Part of the reason I have never really gotten into that game, and I finally understood what was going on, because I didn't really get it the first time I was playing. It turns out the copy that I bought was from a package. I can't remember if it was a Steam sale or a Humble Bundle, but it comes with DLC, and some of the later DLC, especially since I activated it, because I got it as part of a package. I didn't think anything of it at the time.
Sure. It
will automatically clear an area for you of your choice of all collectibles and missions. And to me, that's so frustrating, because if I'm planning on completing the game and I have like a checklist, like some number of things, I don't know what they are, some number of things will be checked off of it when I start the game, and I have to pick what that is, but I don't know what it maps to. Like, should I pick the easiest area?
Baffling.
Because that way I'll have the sense of accomplishment of doing the hard stuff, or should I look up on a guide like the most obnoxious stuff and clear it automatically? Like, why is this even a thing that you can do? I guess it makes sense. I'm not opposed to people paying money to, like, clear objectives in a game, like, existentially, but I wouldn't do it before I even played the game, like, the first time.
It's really weird.
So...
yeah, that's bizarre.
Maybe there's some way I can, like, reinstall the game without the DLC attached to it. But it's just so much extra work just to play a game that I'm not sure I'm even going to enjoy.
It's weird that they make you choose an area to clear, not that as like an option.
That is very strange.
Maybe somebody in the comments will tell me.
It probably has a story significance, I bet, but yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. The second game, I will say one other thing. The other game that I said I'm not doing this, since Lotus brought it up, when I looked at the requirements for 100% completion, was Dual Hearts, which is like also the whole reason why I decided to do that as a Let's Play. because the amount of the collectibles you need basically none of the collectibles to finish the game at all. You need like a tiny fraction of them to get through the main game, and the rest of the time you can just use the stuff that you unlock for like a Zelda game, the stuff that you unlock for beating the dungeons, and like the game's not super hard anyway. So I realized like there must be so much of the game that I'm missing that was not required at all and that I never even saw. So, and there's at the time, there probably is now, but when I recorded it, there was no full playthrough of Dual Hearts on YouTube. So I decided, like, this is me, I'll be the one.
That's kick-ass. Yeah, because who would have thought to do, Dual Hearts?
Mm-hmm.
Well, before it gets too long in the tooth, we should pay tribute here to our fans. With our comments here, Lotus, if you could please, because I really want to make sure that we address our especially the fans that have been here every single week, that have commented very frequently, given us questions and topics, and also interacted with the show, and also kind of like people kind of always had their own little spotlight from week to week and could update people on their progress and things. So I do want to talk about that before we do get long in the tooth here.
Of course. So we have a few comments from Living Corpse, who himself addresses, like, oh geez, sorry, I posted so many comments because there's like 5 of them. A lot of them are about like different types of ammunition, because this is coming off of a thing that he addressed in a previous podcast, like things that you just find, like, what was it, like like things that are often overlooked but are exceedingly important. And he was talking about guns, and he's like, well, the ammo. And then he went into like, interesting, like it's not trivia, but like very specific descriptions of them. So there were like 5 comments, but I'm going to do the last 2, especially because they're more conclusive anyway. So he says, I guess this is my last comment. Dan, this keeps happening to me. I discover something and then it ends like 2 years or 2 months later, so I keep forgetting to bring it up every time you mention Mr. Freeze, so I might as well say it now. A freeze rate is actually closer to reality than one would think. It's called laser cooling, and there's something like 7 methods. I know of 2.
Wow.
One is to hit the atom with a photon in a way to slow down its spin. Another is to have the photons knock the electrons off the atom. Fewer electrons means less energy. I suppose that makes sense. And the other methods fly over my head. Funny how I explain the differences between energy weapons on the show, like masers, lasers, plasma, ions, and even I have my limits on this subject. Oh, and this is the part I mentioned. I also want to apologize for posting so many comments on the comments section of the last episode, the last minute, possibly when you already did a recording.
No,
well,
I mean...
Don't worry, we're still good. We're doing it now. I wanted to post them earlier. Life got in the way. I kept crashing into bed when I had free time. Yeah, too real, man. I know that feel. There's so much I wanted to say, but was saving it for later because I thought I had more time with the show. So I understand if you guys don't have time to read them, but I enjoyed listening and interacting with you guys, and I wish I could have been part of the show. Anyways, Vice, I wish you and your family all the best.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
And then, ironically, the other comment I'm going to read. Oh, wait, I have one more thing. Turns out, solid light is possible. If you have light travel through a gas that is freezing near absolute zero, it slows down the photons long enough to absorb the magnetic charge of other particles and always...
well, I think it's supposed to be allows.
Yeah, allows, probably. Yeah, because he has underlined it. Allows them to interact with each other, or with other charged photons and form molecules. So look forward to the future. You can sit in a chair made of light, or buy a toy Omni-tool made of light for your Mass Effect cosplay.
Isn't that how the holodeck works? It has like solid light?
I've gotten my Star Trek filtered through the Red Letter Media, and they have not covered that particular thing. So yeah, okay, I'm done now. Have a great life, everyone. And yeah, thank you very much, Living Corpse.
Yeah, no, I have to thank you for all of your contributions and your loyalty to the podcast. And like I said, previously, I'm not gone forever. It's just one of those things where I can't keep up with the pace. That's all.
Yeah. And School Filmer has a couple as well. It seems like I've been in a roll lately since I've managed to defeat Ultra Greedier, and thus doing every hard mode mark as almost everyone except Apollyon, as of writing this. Very impressive. So that includes the Lost and the Keeper.
Yeah, we got to get our Isaac in here.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be...
Well, yeah, so like there was that surprise, what was it, Repentance, the last one? The the final
Yes.
expansion to Isaac. Like after everybody thought they were
Yes.
totally done with the game, there was a last round just a few months ago, right?
Yeah, and Repentance is an actual conclusion. And I beat, like, I got everything in Repentance with the Lost, but, like, certain characters, like Cain and Abel, I think it was. No. Jacob and Esau.
Yeah.
I'm not fucking doing that.
It's too much, even for Lotus. Plus, like, the whole... There's 34 characters now, I think, right? So the thought of...
Yeah, like, I'm not... But I did beat the Beast with the Lost, which was extremely hard. I used the I'm feeling drowsy pill to slow down the entire fight, and you know how long that fight is. That was a very, very slow fight.
Yeah.
And here I thought
had
you were a
9
true
lives,
gamer.
and I was down to my last life, even with the slow. I was like sweating by the end of it. Okay, so anyway. So I also need to find the last 4 items for the list: Plan C, Eden's Soul, Metronome, and Dad's Ring, and also completing the Ultra Hard Challenge and getting a 5-win streak in daily runs. Yeah, that sucked. Like, it's not terribly hard to beat a run, but like if you die on run 3 or 4, you're like, oh god damn it, now it's 5 more days at best. That was frustrating. And then one more from School Filmer. Well, it's come to this, the end of the Corrective Consciousness as we know it. It's been a hell of a journey, and I am glad I could partake in it with a couple of questions and comments, allowing myself to become more honest about myself. I guess I've been seeing you guys as the friends I wish I had back then, what with similar interests and the like, so I guess this is it then. I wish all of you who have been on the podcast a happy future, and who knows, maybe we'll meet again someday. Thanks, guys. Cheers. And then P.S. I took out Ultra Greedy as Apollyon, so now all I have to do is head for Repentance. Yeah! And then P.P.S. I'm going to be an uncle for the 3rd time.
Oh, congrats! Yeah.
And thank you again for all of your feedback and support.
Yeah, it's comments like this that, like yours, School Filmer, that I'm very grateful for, because it kind of makes you a mini guest host in a way, because like everybody's getting updates from you and interacting with the podcast. So you're people like you and Living Corpse, and just like and a lot of others are just like extra content generators for the show, and it's been really great having you as a part of it.
And then Ross says, you guys are fucking awesome. Thanks for the LOLs. Good luck for the future. Or Ragnarok. Yeah,
it's pronounced lols.
I said LOLs. It's clearly lols. Disgraceful on my part.
If you're gonna spell it LOS, you might as well spell out the whole thing he said.
Laugh out loud. Super. All right. So and then Fakafan has a couple of comments. Bottom line, this is calling back to what you mentioned was like Ski Free.
Yeah.
Bottom line, if your ski game doesn't have the Yeti, then why bother? You know what? That's a damn good question.
They should make another like technologically advanced like snow.
Yeah, well, I would like to
with
see that
kind
be
of
like
thing.
a mediocre like PS2 looking ski game where it's like 1080 snowboarding, but it's skiing. But then
There's
like,
also
a Yeti. Like, oh my god, like legitimately scary.
And
What if they
appreciate,
make a VR game?
you know, the thought that like that it was one of the last games where if you got too far, you just fucking die. Like one of the last real kill screens.
Yeah.
Imagine
You know,
a
it was also fun if you
VR
were-
ski free. VR
ski free? That would be amazing.
That would be horrifying. But no, what was also funny about Ski Free is if you actually were consistently good enough with your turns to dodge the Yeti without bumping into stuff, like you could kind of lose him, but then like a second Yeti just comes out from a different location. Like it's not
It's
happening.
the original Demon Souls.
You are dead.
It kind of reminds me of Evil Otto. Like eventually, Evil Otto is just gonna get you in Frenzy.
You know what was fun? Remember when we were playing Frenzy in the arcade, and I just tried shooting Evil Otto and just seeing how many times I could do it before.
Yeah, you could get him like 3 times, and then that
Yeah,
fourth
but it was
one
funny
because
because like when he's like blazes toward you, if you get him on the right pixel, like you might catch him before he gets you, and then he's just like whoop, like there's no dodging.
I would really enjoy Pyro's idea for a VR ski free as like a spectator sport where you have somebody with a helmet on. You don't really know what they're playing, but they keep looking behind them and they're like just like bowling like mad.
That is
Just some guy running down the Target aisle because he tried the ski-free demo and he got a little too good.
Amazing.
And then, and Vakafon's other comment, man, this was really fun to record. Feels good, huh, right? 300 episodes, just chewing the fat, talking about things we like. This is a really great experience, and I don't really know what else to add, honestly. It was just really fun.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Vakafon. We concur.
Yeah, Vakafon, you were an absolutely wonderful person to have on. You gelled with our hosts very, very well. We loved having you on every time you were on. Same with you, Dracologist. Loved having you on. I consider you good friends. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
And then we have, I think possibly a first-time commenter, Usala Sierra. Never been much of a commenter guy, but I'm glad that I did that one time. I've been listening to the whole thing since the early days, and at the risk of repeating myself, so I guess a good old-school commenter. Just want to say thank you for all the games, films, or media in general that I've discovered or rediscovered in your conversations. I guess one good final question would be just knowing what's ahead in the future for you guys, which, whatever it is, I hope it makes you happy. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, with me, it's all about family stuff and continuing with my job, and also I really a big part of doing this was also so I could free up my schedule. It's not that as an adult I'm getting busier and busier and busier, and my time in which to just decompress from the week is limited. So even though I love doing this, it's a very fun thing. It is an amount of stress. It's something I have to keep up on the news. I have to think of things. We have to also edit and post the podcasts, and also meet at a specific time, and all of those things. Are and also interact with you. Those are all things that are take up time, and also it takes up money. I mean, I've said this before, but I never made money on the podcast. I've only lost money on it, and I've spent a lot of money paying $15 a month to keep us hosted on SoundCloud. And
so what we're saying is give us money.
No. I never asked for money. I never asked for money, and I never even really did a Patreon because it was just one of those things. I never, I couldn't ever bring myself to making the tiers because I was just like, what else extra can I do? I already do basically at my limit. So I didn't feel right. I mean, maybe I could just say this is a Patreon. If you want to contribute, you can. That kind of thing. That would have been, I guess, acceptable, with no expectation. But I didn't even want to do that. I kind of just wanted to do this to keep in touch with my friends originally, and then hopefully, make this entertaining for somebody out there. And
it's a lot of work doing stuff like this.
It is, and it's especially background stuff, and also it's strain on your loved ones. They have to. My wife has to work around our weekends around my podcast.
I'm doing the podcast, honey.
Exactly. We only lost. We only didn't record 1 week, a single week, and it was because of my honeymoon. It wasn't even because of my wedding. It was because of my honeymoon.
Poor excuse.
Thank God, by pure coincidence, nothing at all happened in the world that week.
But also I was also very, very happy to there were a couple weeks in which I couldn't make it, and either you, OldManStompy, or you, Lotus, would host in lieu of me, and even seeing something like that where my the thing that I started and was my baby kind of being run by somebody else that wasn't me was one of the coolest things I've ever experienced, because you believed in it, and you also like wanted to be a part of something that made me happy and all that. I absolutely thought it was the coolest thing that somebody wanted to actually take part of it. Take charge in being a part of something, even if it didn't directly involve me, which was really, really neat.
And I mean, I would say the fact that it's even been 300 episodes, if I can do my back of napkin math, that's like 6 years.
It's like 5 2/3 or 3/4 or whatever.
So
it is.
It's like it's a lot of dedication, and it's hard. Like, it's hard to manage that with a job, right? Like a lot of big YouTubers don't have other jobs because they're making their money from that.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So it's like being able to balance.
Even then, it's work too. People are like, "When are you gonna upload this?"
Well,
I have to record it. I have to edit all sorts of crazy camera cuts and put in music and like make it something you're interested in watching. Like, that doesn't just happen. Like look at the Game Grumps. They post their stuff like every single day, but they have editors.
They have a team, yeah.
Like,
so it's hard balancing like personal projects and work. Like, there's so many personal projects I've tried to work on, but then when you balance personal, you balance work, you balance life, family, playing video games, and then personal projects kind of go to the wayside sometimes. So
yeah.
I also might add that my entire life I've suffered from a very high amount of anxiety, and I have only in the last like 5 or 6 years been properly medicated and in a good mental space all about it, I've always had good support, but I've never before that amount of time it was always difficult for me to do projects because I was always very anxious about them, and I would put them off, and I would I think that's a very common thing with people with anxiety, is that they have trouble starting things because of all of the possible outcomes, or even just the thought of it is just overwhelms them. So I used to have that was a big part of the problem in getting the podcast started to begin with, is I just had a lot of anxiety about, like, what am I going to do? What am I going to think? And a lot of it was solved just organically. Like,
once you're in the groove, you just do it.
Yeah. And not only that, but I really have to thank Lotus for kind of being my teacher during this whole thing. He obviously is a prominent, a much more prominent content creator than I am. So you already had some of the infrastructure of like scheduling, and this is what you need to do in order to keep your fans. This is what you need. You were the one who taught me that, and also like made sure that I stuck to it.
Well, that's the thing. Like, even that though, that wasn't like just. I mean, regarding like how to record and edit stuff, like, yeah, I had that in the bag already, but like getting started, like, that was from me, like, I forgot if it was a thing in high school, but it certainly was in college, which was, for me, it wasn't anxiety. It was more just like, I really don't feel like it. Like, I don't want to start my work because it's work. But like, once I do start it, or like, same thing with any schedule change, I don't like change. Like, I like whatever, even if the change is clearly good, but I'm used to this, I don't like change. But once you force me to start it, once I'm in, I'm in. Same thing for my homework assignments. Like, oh god, I have to do this now, but once I've started, I would rather just finish it. Like my whole existence is like inertia. If I'm not moving, I don't want to move, and if I am moving, I want to finish. Yeah. So that makes it easier for the podcast as well. Just do it. Once you start, you just kind of go.
Well, I also want to talk a bit about as well. Like, a lot of people don't realize this, but we had episodes that we had technology issues with.
It happens.
And so we either lost tracks or lost entire episodes. because of various crashes and things like that, and
power outages. That's
power
happened a couple
outages.
times on this podcast, and we like edit around it. Maybe you could tell, maybe you can't.
Yeah, there was even one where like the audio was completely borked, and you had to really amp up the volume and like work it off of like headphone audio.
No, you know what my favorite was? When I realized like I just hadn't been recording for the first like 10 minutes. So like what I did was I played back your audio
and talked to it.
Yeah, I interacted with it. I was like, yeah, oh sure, that's good. And if there was like a really long extended segment where you were just waiting for me to talk and I didn't remember what that was, I just like either cut it down severely or just cut it, because I was like, I don't know what the fuck I said for like 5 minutes straight.
Yeah, you really were a just wonderful person to work with, because you really taught me that like you have to be regimented, or else like shit won't get done, and you'll lose. And
I'm glad that worked
viewers.
Because. Well, I'm actually glad that worked, because that's really not a guarantee. Some people, we've talked about this before off the air, some people feel horribly confined by that. Like, a schedule is a nightmare because they're trapped in it. But, like, I guess it worked for you, but for someone like me, like, I need that, because, like, this is what you do, this is when you do. Like, I've talked about this to you before. Like, when you go to work, you don't have a problem getting to work on time. Like, oh, I don't feel like going to work that today. Like, that's not a problem that you have. So if you just convince your own brain that this is like a priority that must be met, then it just kind of falls into place.
Yeah, it's kind of like exercise. Like you have to make it an essential part of your day.
Yes,
and like nobody is guilting you into doing it other than yourself. So it's hard to put that schedule into your brain that no, this is something that I have to do. I might not like I don't have a social obligation to do it, but I need to do this. And it's very much the same thing in content creation. You have to keep doing it, and and if you lose it, it's hard to get back into it. Also, I know plenty of people that I'm gonna go on a hiatus for a month, and then they never get back to it.
Yeah, well, I've kind of done stuff like that. Like, between my Let's Plays, it's a little irregular. Like, I'm not going to keep you waiting for, like, a year or anything. But, like, I have had times where I'm between Let's Plays, and then I'm like, oh, it's been 3 weeks. Like, I should put something up.
Yeah. So
because once I put up, like, my video that says, it's coming in 3 days, at that point, it's already happening. Like, 3 days, got it. It will happen. But, like, when I put up the announcement, who knows when I'm going to do that. Like, once I do it, I'm in.
I'm also, this is kind of a little inside baseball, and that's kind of the kind of thing I want to talk about here is the way that I am about what I'm into. I am very much an all-in person when I have a hobby, and I have a lot of hobbies. So it... like when I get into reading a comic, I want to get all of it, and then
I'm pretty similar.
Yeah, I want to get all of it. I don't want to miss anything. I want to read it in the right order, and I don't want to be spoiled about it. I don't want to read anything about it, and so if you take a look at my bookshelf, I have tons of comics, ones that I had in my brain that I had to buy just in case. I wouldn't be able to find it later, which is a legitimate concern with comics, because stuff goes out of print. So, like, I have a gigantic backlog of that, and a gigantic backlog of video games, which I also love, and also movies. I am into all of those things. I'm also very into cocktail making. You guys know that. And,
so you bought all the vineyards.
Well, no, but I have an extensive liquor collection. Even though my drinking has steadily declined because of not really because of health reasons, but because like I like doing it like sparingly now.
No, yeah, no. I was gonna say like your entire wine rack, like you could put anything in a bottle, right? Like so you just have hundreds of wine bottles of like Jägermeister.
Wine bottles full of video games for days.
Wow.
But like I have I'm also like love cooking, and I love trying to cook new things for me and my wife, and like trying new recipes and new methods. So like I am very much I have tons of hobbies, as I've revealed, and I will get more as time goes on, and I will drop some, or ones will become more prominent than the others. It's just whatever I'm into at that time, I'm like totally into it. So probably I'll get that way into gardening eventually or something like that. I could easily see myself getting into that because my dad does that. He does that with produce. He grows tomatoes primarily, but lots of other stuff.
Oh, you might say that he makes them come into existence.
But yeah, what I'm trying to say is the podcast is something that I was totally into, and it kind of was scratching my itch as a content creator, because I used to be in the filmmaking club at Rutgers, and I always loved making things, but it was always kind of a really difficult for somebody with an anxiety issue to do, because my ambitions were always grand. I should have made smaller things, to be honest, to help teach myself how to do it. It was too hard to do a lot of the things that I wanted to do, because they involved a lot of like expert level stuff, like creating your own music, and like large amounts of time to put things together, and also other people, the successful things I made were actually just documentaries about stuff I was doing at the time, and they were also heartfelt. Like I did one about my weight loss.
That's the one I saw.
Yeah, and that one is the best thing I've made in terms of filmmaking, and that it turns out that maybe that was the kind of thing I should have been doing the whole time. Because those are the things that I ended up doing, and also I got praise for it. Recording a podcast was kind of scratching the same itch. It's not the same. It's kind of like a component of filmmaking is the sound part of it, but the editing process and all that stuff is on the similar-ish. I mean, I don't have to add special effects, that kind of thing, but and worry about lighting, but you have to. It's actually kind of like almost a simpler version of it, and I had to worry about 2 people most of the time, or 3 people most of the time, and to collaborate with, and that was far easier. Plus, they were people that wanted to be there with me,
and that you already knew.
Yeah, exactly, and wanted to spend time with me. So, it was scratching that itch. I think one of these days I might want to start making little movies again, but or even writing again, because I used to write a lot. And I can't do it all. Here's the thing: with working the schedule that I work, and being responsible for a house and a family, you get only very few times to do that kind of stuff before you're old and you don't remember what your time you did with your time. So I've already put in a lot of this, a lot of work into this, and I built a very nice legacy with this. I'm going to keep it up and keep it preserved for as long as I can, so people can go back to it. I also think it's kind of cool to go back as a time capsule to be like, hey, this is what we cared about 3 years ago, and just to have it there, just for people to enjoy if they want it, and also to have it there for my family. Hey, this is what he was like back then. That kind of thing. So
when we're retired, we can start it up again.
Yeah, exactly.
There
You know, when
Then
we have more time,
we'll all have to call ourselves Old Man something.
But that's really it.
All right, well, in light of that, we do have one more comment.
Mhm.
So Sabrina Hengel says, even though I didn't comment or contribute all that often, mostly because life stuff got in the way, yeah, well,
We know that.
too real,
Yeah.
and I ended up listening to RC and CC a while after you released them, I did listen to every single one of your episodes and also enjoyed
Wow.
every single one of them. I'm sad to see it come to an end, but I understand why. Thank you to all of you who hosted the show, contributed to it, and kept it going all these years. God, it really has been years already, hasn't it? It's been great, and I wish you only the best. And thank you once again, Sabrina.
Yeah, thank you. You were also more prominent than you gave yourself enough credit for. I certainly saw your name plenty over the years, and I'm just, it's one of those, like, where did the time go? But then when I think about it, I lived 4 different places during
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
during the recording of this. I lived at my parents'. My first apartment that I lived outside of college with my roommate, and then I moved in with my now wife to our her apartment, and now we're in our house. So it's just like a lot of I have a cat and a dog now that I didn't have before that are named after battle monsters of all
I
things.
was just going to say Battle Monsters. The classic.
Chili and pepper. It's just one of those things. Now I know how to cook a lot better than I used to. It's just one of those things. It's really cool. But anything else that anybody else wants to mention before we wrap things up?
I will say one thing,
think
which
I'm
is
good.
that, I play a lot of Magic. I do have the opportunity to play Magic again. I also managed to purchase a house last summer. So now that I have my own place, it's a lot easier for me to host some and now that most of my friends are vaccinated, it's a lot easier for me to host in-person Magic nights. Never really got into, like, doing the spell table games that people have been playing online during the pandemic. And I have really no interest in monetizing my life right now. So I have like no plans for content creation, but like with Lundre, like I really stuck to that. It took me years to finally finish all the videos to it because I like lost a hard drive a couple of times and things happen. I mean, Lotus knows this because he was watching it, sort of like subscribing to my channel and following along. But like the last 2 parts came out several years like after most of the rest of the video. Like if something comes out that I feel like I can do a good job with, then I could be compelled to come out and do some content creation again. And I know that I owe Lotus the rest of the Nonary Game trilogy with my wife, which I really had a lot of fun doing the first time. The next 2 times I think we'll allow the voice actors to do what they were paid to do and not do the voiceovers all the time, because that was kind of stupid, but still a lot of fun.
We mute the voices so we could do the voices.
Which, to me it was authentic because the original game didn't have voice actors, so that was the only reason why it made sense. Otherwise, definitely.
Oh. I think my favorite was Minty Mitz doing the mystery person by just muffling her voice
for like a really long time. It was not the greatest production value, but I had a lot of fun making it, and hopefully I'll have that much fun again. So what I wanted to loop back around to was Mark Rosewater, the lead designer for Magic the Gathering, always says that people come to him because he tries to be accessible on Twitter and on Tumblr, and they keep telling him things about how he's killing the game of Magic with all these decisions that he's making every time he makes a new set. And he says it like, yes, you are correct. I am trying very hard to kill Magic. I am very bad at my job. And I can honestly say that here, since I am likely to be the last person to sign off, that I have finally, after 300 episodes, managed to kill the podcast. So take that, Mark Rosewater.
By God, OldManStompy, we have a family.
Well, we'll always still have 4 heroes of light to get us through things.
I was going to tell some
heroes.
stupid joke. Like, I was going to make up some joke. I'll be honest, full disclosure, more inside baseball here, about how Corrective Consciousness was going to go the way of, like, Berserk and the mystery of Edwin Drood, and like all these things that like implicitly the connection was that the author died in the middle of making them. And if you had said anything about that, I was just going to say, like, ever since 4 Heroes of Light, you've been dead to me, Vice.
But I mean, that is a good thought. Is like, you know, like we only have so much time on this earth, and being able to put a cap on something is a luxury. So
yeah, we have done what many TV shows have not.
To be able to end on your terms.
This is a good ending. Yeah. We're ending on our own terms, and not in an embarrassing way. I don't think so.
No plot holes that I can think of.
Not substantially more so than usual.
Yeah, I said this off the air before we started recording reactive, but like, oh man, OldManStompy, PyroJackFrost, you missed it. Like, there was a whole arc where Vice and I recorded evil versions of ourselves, and we had to fight them, and just pretend you know what's going on when we talk about that.
And now I have a gigantic scar on my chest.
Yeah.
And you don't know why. But, yeah. Pyro, did you want to say any last words?
No, I mean, like, I know I've been out for a while because of life as well. But it has been fun. It's interesting doing something like this, I would say, because I've never liked hearing the sound of my own voice. But
that is a weird thing you have to get used to, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's just it's cool making something that even more than one person, more than 0 people listen to and enjoy.
People from all over the world listen to this, which is like baffling to me.
Yeah, people like Lotus did.
Unfortunately, this is not a visual podcast, so I don't know. The fans of mine won't tell me that they're fans of mine. They won't come running up to me in the street saying, "Are you PyroJackFrost?" I'm like, "No, I don't know who you are. Go away."
That's the thing. We had that one day
You'll
where
have
we
to
all
come
went
with
to
us
MagFest, where Lotus had the panel, where like a handful of people
I was
went
just
to
gonna
it
mention.
just because.
I was just gonna say. Yeah, I was just gonna say, Pyro, come with us to MagFest the next time I do some panel and see if anyone in the audience picks up your voice. Because like I remember we
had somebody who did. Yeah, and they recognized me too. Yeah, it was.
They recognized OldManStompy.
But it was hugely flattering. It's just one of those things. Like somebody actually like comes back for this. You know, this is something that you spend like a certain amount of time, but collectively like hours listening to us over time.
Yeah,
and it's
300 episodes. It's always at least 2 to 3 hours. And there's 2 a week. That's like 1,200 hours of listening to you guys talk. I cannot honestly say that I'm listen to this podcast
just thinking about it.
despite being in it. But
because
I have a lot of respect for the people who can
friends.
stick with you guys.
Well, it's also one of those things where, like, even some of our friends actually do listen to the podcast, but don't interact with us. Like Perry listens to the podcast.
That's
like
the worst thing that we never. We talk about Perry all the time, and he'll have to. That's the one remaining plot hole is that every television show has a character who they refer to.
It's like Maris.
Yeah, you never get to see.
Yeah, like Maris. Perry. We don't see Perry either. Like, that's the funny thing is, like, this interaction with him is very one-sided. And only he knows about it.
I will say that Perry was supposed to come to my new house. We invited him to come play games, and he picked out the board game. He set a date, and then he got COVID, maybe? He didn't really say. But he was, like, deathly ill, supposedly.
He did tell me at one point he had COVID.
The day that he was supposed to come over, and
some people will do anything to get out of engagement.
Yeah, they'll go to the they'll go to the supermarket and just have somebody spit in their face until they get COVID, apparently, to avoid hanging out with me personally.
Yeah.
And so I drove over to his new place where he lives with his wife, and I brought him vegan cookies to help him recover as a care package, and he didn't come to the. Because he was sick, he wouldn't have come to the door anyway. But his sister-in-law came to the door, waved at us like a couple of crazy people because I was trying to take a picture of his house to send it to him to make sure I got to the right place at like 1:00 in the morning with a package of cookies in my hands. So after all that time, I never got to see Perry. As far as I know, he no longer exists.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I interact with him weekly at our D&D sessions.
I think that you're full of shit.
At least as a voice, he exists.
Well, we used to watch The Boys together, and I wanted to get that going with another show, but we haven't been able to do that. So, but I do want to start doing group watches again because that was a lot of fun. So, yeah, I missed that. And, well, The Boys is coming back, so maybe we could do it.
Boys are almost back in
what
town.
was the other show? Invincible? Feels like that's in the same like.
Yeah, we tried it with Invincible, but it didn't stick.
I've been, the meme format for Invincible where Nolan is like standing over his like destroyed son.
Think.
So I've been trying to get my daughter to do that, who's 2, over like one of her plushies, like toss it on the ground, and just like put her hands on her temples and just like look really aggravated, like turn it into a personal meme template.
That sounds really hard to get working though for like as young as she is.
Yeah, she's only 2, and like I said, I'm not looking to monetize my daughter. I just think the picture would be really funny.
Yeah,
riot.
That show has one of the most devastating things that go on in it. Oh my god! But yeah, I read the comic before, so like I was familiar with it, and I got up to the first major twist.
There's that scene I have seen once, and I cannot bring myself. I do not have the stomach to watch it a second time.
Yeah, but it's also like great in what it is.
Yeah, well, it's impactful. Yeah. I will definitely say that it's yeah.
Yeah, it does the job, right? But yeah, I would like to do something like that, but I also don't want to keep trading like scheduled things for other scheduled things.
Yeah, so
like,
my wife and I always say that there's there's a lot of stuff that has, now that we have kids, that has to be watched when the children are asleep and when we still have energy, which is like only a couple hours a day at the most, and there's only so much stuff you can fit in that time, especially if you're trying to watch it together. Then you're not like double. Like if we watch stuff separately, then we can double up on media and we can talk about it later. But but then we didn't watch the same thing.
Yeah, but then what's even the fucking point?
Yeah,
at that point. Yeah,
but these things happen.
Yeah. We're adults. What do you want?
Mm-hmm.
So and we all live in different.
Thankfully, the most recent big release is Kirby, which is a tremendous amount of fun to watch. My daughter loves it. She thinks it's the greatest thing.
That was one of the biggest joyful games that I've ever played. It just like turning into swallowing up a vending machine was one of the most joyful things that I could discover to do. It was just so much fun.
It's like my daughter's 2 and she can vocalize the majority of what Kirby is doing. It's like, oh, he ate a car. Like I probably didn't register that's a thing that people can do, but in cartoons it happens all the time. he's a triangle, he's a circle, like he got a star piece, he got a coin, like these are all really easy things for kids to vocalize. Kirby has a very universal grammar.
Yeah, that game is just so much fun. I was playing it with my wife watching, and she just was enjoying the aesthetic of it and everything.
Oh, and so I will say one of my daughter's first 5 words was "Akko," which meant Animal Crossing. Just that was what she said because we just that game came out when she was 5 months old, and that was like all that we did all day, because that was also because it came out right after the pandemic, so we were just home all the time playing Animal Crossing, hoping one day we too could go outside just like the people in the Animal Crossing game. It's like working on our town.
In this fictional game.
I have to say, me and my wife visited your town online, and you and your wife's town online, and it was so magical. Like you put so much.
Well, okay. Like my wife
effort.
She has her own. Like I have no energy to do the town sculpting. That is all Binty Mitts. So if she ever wants to come on the podcast again, she can take all the credit for that.
It was just like the amount of detail that she put into every little section of your island. It was just such a joy to look at. And the amount of hours that she must have played in order to get all of the bells in order to do what she did, and all the collectibles to do what she did.
Yeah, well, it's like I said, it's child safe, especially very early on when the game came out, when the baby wasn't really old enough to move around very much. Like we had a lot more time to play Animal Crossing.
Yeah, but it was just, I had never seen anything like it. Our island didn't even get close to that. It was just I will
pass her that message.
Yeah, it was
in the post-podcast world.
a wonderful human accomplishment. Honestly, just beautiful in every way, and wonderful. So, with that being said, I think we can wrap things up. I mean, we could do rest in peace, Corrective Consciousness.
Well, that was the one thing I wrote to confirm that I had edit access to the show notes. So,
and that is our last show. We want to thank all of our fans who contributed all the things that they did.
Yeah, just, comments, questions, just silently listening, like, all of it.
Yeah, all the support in every way that you did, even if you just listened to it, was good enough for me. I mean, just having an audience is just a fantastic revelation. Like somebody wants to listen to what I have to say, what we have to say, I should say. So finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on pretty much anything. You can keep in touch with me that way. And finally, we'd like to thank everyone who contributed art, Thacathon especially, for providing us with title cards as well, and Eco Garden and Dracologist for providing us with the music as well. It's insanely great that you were able to put in enough time to be creative and support the show that way. Thank you.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or getting in conversations with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/Lotus.
And he has a very lovely community, very tight-knit regulars, a lot of tight-knit regulars.
Thank you.
Wonderful community.
I do indeed.
They're nicer than us. A lot of the time. Especially me. I don't know why you guys hang out with me.
But you're funny.
You're funny. An equal opportunist insulter.
Alright.
Yeah, I'm PyroJackFrost. Like, I've probably ended almost every single episode. I'm places. Look for me if you want. Say hi. I might say hi back.
Nice.
So, and of course, I am OldManStompy on YouTube, OldManStompyCC on Twitter. If I am active on the internet, it'll be on one of those channels. If I ever do anything, content creation in the post-podcast world, it will probably be announced on one of those two. So please feel free to follow me. Although I'm currently doing absolutely nothing besides enjoying my beautiful home, my beautiful wife, my beautiful daughter, my comfortable job as best as we can in this current in the current state of affairs.
Yep, absolutely. Well, this is signing off then.
Thank you all very much for your support.
Yes, thank you all. Peace.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.